evidence that he is putting out yesterday to be the absolute evidence. It's not right. He is convicted, the man.
How so?
In a court of public opinion.
Okay.
Everything that he was doing yesterday was wrong. Even to lay people who are looking at it and saying that he was entertaining the idea of plea bargain. On what basis will you make that assumption? There must be some inherent, your message out there is suggesting that this person is guilty and that he has options. Instead of going through the trial to be convicted and sentenced, he can come and plea bargain and get a lesser sentence.
What I heard him say, what I heard him say was that persons who would admit that they've done something wrong, even before they are prosecuted, have the option of plea bargaining. That's what I heard him say.
No problem. I'm saying he's entertaining himself to the fact.
Yes.
So if all you are doing is putting out a fact, now mind you, that question was asked by a journalist.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So that the question is, what impression did that journalist get to ask you that question? Because he's seeing some presentation and how you presented a thing leading to a possible guilt of an individual, and is asking that under that construct, does that individual have a recourse to any other thing apart from going through and be sentenced, perhaps maybe getting the money back and all of the things. So maybe a plea bargain is an option if they can bring all the money, and so therefore they can walk. The pretext is that this person is guilty. The politics is rough, it's not acceptable, it's wrong. The rights of that individual in the context is wrong. You know, he's a lawyer, he knows a lot, but my basic reading around due process is a control mechanism on the state. When you go back in the days where the concept was introduced, which I think back then was called the rule of the land in English law back then, I think around the 12th or so, the 12th century thereabout. My brother, it was to restrain the authorities from abusing and unilaterally or arbitrarily taking the rights of citizens from them, okay, without recourse to law. So it was to set a higher threshold so that people's rights are not taken away from them unilaterally or arbitrarily by the state. So the state must go through that process necessarily to make it difficult for them to deny citizens of their rights. So that when you do what the Attorney General is doing, by not according people their due process rights, I find that egregious. I find that absolutely unacceptable.
I want you to tell me, Richard, sorry about
this. But I'm coming.
Just a second, a second. Whilst you're submitting on this matter, I want you to convince me on why you think that the Attorney General has failed to allow due process to take place. Convince me.
Generally speaking, our Constitution provides for innocence until proven guilty.
Yes.
It's part of our due process regime. Okay? The Attorney General's presentation, my brother says, is a matter of opinion. So he has the opinion to say what he says and think that it is not convicting the Mr. Adu-Boahene in the court of public opinion. He has the opinion to say so, and we too, based on his rationalization, that we too have our opinion to say that was exactly what he did. He convicted the man yesterday in a court of public opinion. He created the impression that Mr. Adu-Boahene Kwabena is a creature of the New Patriotic Party. When the man, I'm saying, created the impression. Okay? Now let's adopt the context my brother has defined for us, that everybody has their opinion to establish what the truth is according to them. That's what that premise is what is established. Right. I'm saying that that gentleman has been working there long before the NPP came to office. He became a deputy DG under the National Democratic Congress. But he created an impression that this man is an NPP operative, that everything he's ever gotten in his life was gotten from after 2018 when he became 2017, or when the NPP came to office, when he became the Director General. You understand? His lawyers went to talk to him, completely denied the rights of the privacy to talk to their client.
You know this for a fact?
Well, didn't you read the lawyer's letter that came?
I've seen the lawyer.
Yes, so they said that.
And the reason I'm asking is because I've also heard Justice Shremsai, who has categorically and flatly denied it.
Do you think he will say yes?
It's a claim and counterclaim. That's what I'm asking if you know this for a fact.
But somehow this thing will fall right. The point right now is that the lawyer, there is no motivation whatsoever for him to lie when he went there to counsel his client.
Okay.
And was denied that privacy, except for when a Nyoko official will be in to listen. What kind of abuse is that? What kind of intimidation is that? That right is available. That right must be made available. The right to counsel must be made available. But that was breached. He was denied. Completely denied. Characterized as a criminal. You understand? It was characterized. You know, can you just begin to process the impression you create for people? Okay? Saying that before you are going to release the man and rearrest him. Telling that to the public. Okay? Abusing that right. What is the assessment? What is the basis for doing that? And so in the midst of all this abuse, I am wondering, and I'm shocked, completely flabbergasted, in seeing that the Attorney General, his first orders that he gave was to file a series of nolli prosequi in cases to do with NDC people who had legitimate questions to answer in court. He came to clear them. He came to let them go, not answer anything in court. Under the pretext that somehow the evidence did not permit him to continue the case. Moro, I am asking you, if your ears were plugged for years, your eyes, you've been in a trance for years, and you just woke up in our country today and somebody told you that sometime in 2012, there was a contract to build some 5,000 houses. Okay? And now this time they are standing you in the premises at Saglemi. And they are telling you the details of that contract and say that the Republic of Ghana contracted a fund, 200 million of it, to build some 5,000 housing units. And where you are standing, there's about 1,005 out of the 5,000 that has been built, none of them habitable, none of them completed. They are shells standing. But 196 million has been spent to build those shells that you are standing and looking at. And then also told, just out of your trance, to say that the Attorney General of this country, Dr. Dominic Ayine, says that he doesn't have evidence to prosecute that person. 200 million versus 7 million, and he can't go to sleep. $7 million, 200 million, that one is easy, he doesn't have evidence. What evidence does he need? Look at a contract. How many houses were supposed to be built? 5,000. How much was spent? 196 million. Where are the houses? In Saglemi, where are the houses? And why is Dr. Ayine telling us that he doesn't see the evidence? He feels that that person should go free. And then somebody who has not been convicted. Evidence he has accumulated from his own sources. Sources biased to him. Give him evidence. And so therefore he now says that one is what Ghana should focus on. That is not update. That's not transparency. That's abuse. That's not abuse. That's not transparency. That's abuse. Look, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama should call the Attorney General to order. I remember very well sometime in 2017, when his government, he was in opposition when he lost the election. He went somewhere in Eastern region and was calling on NDC people to stand in solidarity with members of his government who may fall foul of the law. And he's saying that they shouldn't abandon them simply because the MPP says that they are guilty. And that in Ghana, we have a law that says that you are innocent until proven guilty. That's His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. In 2017, what has changed? He is in office, and yesterday he must have watched on his TV his Attorney General convicting people, denying them the right that he claimed for his appointees, to say that they are innocent until proven guilty by a court of competent jurisdiction. What has changed? What is all this thing about?
Well, Richie, sometimes politicians surprise me.
No, this has nothing to do with politicians. It has everything to do about NDC and Dr. Ayine.
I get that, but I'm saying politicians generally. I mean, you surprise me. Richie, we're in this country. The Office of the Special Prosecutor was updating Ghanaians on Ahiagbah scandal, and the NPP were very happy. If at the time when the NDC were complaining that, look, this constant update on Ahiagbah and creating a certain impression, something on what had happened, is something that the Office of the Special the OSP should stop it. But you were very happy.
I don't know what point
you're
making.
So there's a principle I'm trying to establish. The principle I'm trying to establish is this.
I'm not sure.
In every democratic country, one of the democratic tenets that we all praise, which is carrying the people along, updating the people on what is happening, because people want to know what is happening. People want information. And so you and I would.
I'm not sure what you're saying, but can I just finish?
I don't worry. I'll give the time. But you and I ordinarily should be happy when state, the public servants or public officials update us on what's happening. But all of a sudden, you're making such a big deal of what Dr. Ayine has done, which is to tell Ghanaians what's been happening with, holding people accountable. I don't know why is it such a big deal? All of a sudden.
Moro, you have gone all the way back again. We're saying that in these legal matters, it is not as simple as updating people. You are prejudicing the minds of people against the individual. You understand? That's the difference maker. That it is not as simple as that. But of course, if you want to make it an update, you come there and say, well, we're investigating A, B, C, and D. You can say that. But when you go into the merit of the issue and are creating an impression that the person is trying to evade lawful investigation, then that presupposes that the person has done something wrong and is running. This whole thing about somebody's hiding in Senegal, how did they come to that conclusion? No, in Senegal. How did they come to that conclusion? How did they come to the conclusion? That the man is hiding. So I sitting here cannot go anywhere that I want. If it has to do with my business, it has to do with my life to explore and go to places. Then Dr. Dominic Ayine will say, because I'm not in the country and I moved from South Africa to Senegal, I'm hiding. Why is that? Why is that a reasonable thing to say and to suppose about somebody? A free citizen. We must not forget that the power they are exercising is not theirs, it's ours. The abuse is becoming too flagrant. You understand? So the individual cannot leave this country and go anywhere just because he's worked for government before. And I'm telling you that President John Dramani Mahama doesn't believe in what is happening. He didn't want what is happening to be done to his appointees. So why is he supervising that to be done?
Okay.
Look, His Excellency Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo in office. We, some of MPP people, criticized him. I know. I personally were involved in some of the critique, except one not publicly, to say that why are these people not being persecuted? We heard about a lot of cases, okay, under the NDC government. Why are these people not before court?
Okay.
Because we didn't know. You remember there was this instance, I think in 2019 or 2019 or so, the president was asked about this question. And that was when he disclosed that about 21 of NDC, former NDC appointees were before the court. But Ghanaians didn't know. Because you don't have to table that for public discussion.
But you also heard what the anti-corruption crusaders were saying. They were not happy. The Edison and News and Co. They were saying that, look, they were in the dark. That we kept in the dark. Because the NPP fought the elections. You prosecuted the 2015-2016 elections on the back of holding public officials accountable.
Yes, of course.
So if you're working quietly and you were not updating Ghanaians on what you were doing, the anti-corruption crusaders were up in arms, you then begin to understand why perhaps
the fact that they are up in arms doesn't mean they are right.
True.
The other people who are a subject of that investigation have rights that must be protected. Okay? You can't subject the law to mob reaction.
All right.
That is why what is called street justice is not allowed. Because that's a mob mentality. That's a group think. People think that this is wrong and they go for it. But he is just established for us that it's not everything that you see in the face of the law or somebody just break a law that you can deem it to say he's wrong or he's guilty, that when he goes to the courtroom, the person will come out guilty. Right? Because the threshold for establishing guilt is high.
Okay.
You must go to that conversation with evidence. Which evidence? Your evidence may seem convincing to you, but it has to be evaluated by a judge.
Okay.
Independently.
Okay.
To establish whether or not the claim of guilt against the individual is just or not.